Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. This is the second round table in the year of celebration, the 20th anniversary of SPO creation. SPO, the section on sport archives, was founded in 2004 during the ICA Congress in Vienna. The mission of SPO is the preservation and safeguarding of sport archives worldwide. The section arranged seminars, workshops, and roundtables like this for increasing information about the sport archives and share to sport archives information. You can look at the ICA website under SPO and you will find more support resources like support guide, international directory on sport archives, the SPO video, and etc. By the way, the deadline for submitting experiences for the 4th International Seminar on Sport Archives to be held in Girona in 30 September is now open. You can send it to spo@ica.org until 15 April. The first round table was with the sport archives in the international organizations, SPO and SIO. Now we continue with the sport archives in the university archives, SPO and SUB. At the previous roundtable, we discovered that international organizations also have documents related to sport. Today, we will discover some records related to sport that safeguarding in the university archives. If you have any questions for comments to share with the speakers, please use the Q&A box, please. I introduce you the moderator of the roundtable, Véronique Reuté, Secretary of the SPO Bureau. Good afternoon, Véronique. And I will
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening.
Good evening.
Thank you.
And I will like to introduce you the President of the International Section on University Archives, SUB, Caroline Brown. Good afternoon, Caroline.
Thank you, Vina. Hello, everyone. Yes, I'm Caroline, and I'm the chair of the section of the International Council on Archives that's responsible for university and research institution archives. We put on conferences, we have webinars, and we provide guidelines to help people who are working in a university or a research institution setting. And we also have social media channels that you can follow, and you can find more information from our website. And please get in touch with me if you want to find out anything else about our section. So I'm very happy that we have 3 people today who are working with university archives, who have sports collections and who look after sports collections. I'm just going to ask them to very quickly introduce themselves. So Karl.
Hi everyone, my name's Karl Magee. I'm the University Archivist at the University of Stirling, which is in Scotland.
Thank you. And Garfield?
Hello, my name is Garfield Lam, and I'm the University Archivist and Head of Special Collections at the University of Hong Kong.
Thank you, Garfield. And Ajit?
My name is Ajit Gandabhai, and I work for Non-Racial Sport History Project, and I handle their archives at the University of Witwatersrand.
Thank you. So I'm looking forward to hearing what you're all going to say today. So I think Veronique is going to ask you some questions.
Thank you, Caroline. I'm going to ask the first question. Why are sport archives important to the university archives? Karl, would you like to answer this first question, please?
Yeah, thank you. So yeah, I'll say a bit about our experience at the University of Stirling. So sport is an important element of what we do at Stirling. Part of the University of Stirling's corporate branding is it describes the university as Scotland's University for Sporting Excellence. And the university has a large focus on sport across the area of performance, research, and education. And in 2020, the university was crowned the Sunday Times Good University Guide Sports University of the Year. So I suppose one key thing to note in terms of our work with Sporting Archives is that our interest in sport and sporting heritage goes beyond the student activities which form part of the university's own archives. Our collecting policy at the University of Stirling Archives includes building research collections which support the main areas of research activity at the university, which in our case includes sport. The university campus at Stirling is home to a number of national sporting bodies, including Commonwealth Games Scotland, which is the organisation who are responsible for the management of the Scottish team which participates at the Commonwealth Games. So I should probably say a little something for those who aren't familiar with the Commonwealth Games. So the Commonwealth Games is an international sporting competition for members of the Commonwealth, which is held every 4 years. The first competition was held back in 1930 when it was originally known as the British Empire Games, and it's changed quite a lot in terms of how it operates and what it's called since then. And uniquely for British athletes, each of the British home nations have a separate team in the Commonwealth Games. So whereas at the Olympic Games, it's Team GB, at the Commonwealth Games, you have separate teams for Scotland, England, Wales, and Northern Ireland, and also separate teams for the Isle of Man and the islands of Jersey and Guernsey. And it provides a unique chance for Scottish athletes to compete for Scotland in their sport at the highest level. And the Commonwealth Games have grown to be a major sporting event in recent decades. And Commonwealth Games Scotland have deposited their extensive archive with the University Archives, and it forms the core of our sporting collections, and it documents almost a century of sporting competition. So very briefly, that's what sporting archives mean to us at Stirling.
Thank you, Karl, for this elements about Scotland and your work. Garfield, would you like to answer this question?
Yes, thank you, Veronique. Similar to what Karl said, the University of Hong Kong was established in 1911 by the British at the beginning, and we opened our door in 1912, and we had a lot of subjects brought in from the UK, including languages, literature, and so no wonder sports were one of the many subjects brought by the British. And similar to what Karl said earlier on, actually, coincidentally, we were one of the members of the Commonwealth universities. So basically, in the early days, we sent students overseas to have competitions with other universities, including sports. And therefore, sports were always an important part of our university life. Many students were actually living in the residential halls within the university, and including all the wardens from overseas. So basically, sports were actually part of very core activities of their daily lives, especially if they were living in the residential halls at the university. So later on, when we had a chance looking at our photographs, you could see there are actually staff members participating in sports with many students as well. And we were actually having a lot of traditional sports, also no-brainer from Britain as well, including cricket, squash, fencing, and more common will be football, basketball, and table tennis, etc. And it's actually important to us nowadays. I was talking about back then, all these sports were part of our daily lives. But nowadays, when we're looking into the archival materials in the university archives, when people are looking into sports-related materials, they're mostly talking about genders equality, genders who played sports, and when start having, for example, female cricket teams and female football teams, etc. And they always look into the developments of racial, of genders, because they would like to talk about the promotion of gender and gender studies at university. And the last but not least, the sports actually are relating to the development of campus as well, because we have lots of sports fields at the beginning, at the starting of our university, the planning of the campus, and also the use of facilities as well. So a lot of architectural drawings and the planning of the university campus back then, people are interested in the early days of our university development physically and the campus-wise. So that's why sports and sport archives are always important in terms of research, and also looking into all these development of the students' lives. Yeah, that's my answer. Thank you.
Thank you, Gabriel in Hong Kong. And Ajit in South Africa, would like to answer this first question.
Okay, thank you. I've written some notes so that I'm within the 3 minutes. The sports archives tell the stories of the fight for non-racial sport in apartheid South Africa from 1973 to 1991 by the South African Council on Sport, in short, SACOS. I must provide some background to what I've said. When political settlement talks began in the late 1980s, one of the contentious issues was when will the embargo on sports tours to and from South Africa be lifted. SACOS's position was clear. When the playing field was leveled in terms of sports facilities, coaching, etc., for all South Africans. So that was our basic premise, that tours must start to and from South Africa. But the politicians gave the go-ahead, and sports tours to and from South Africa began in 1991 onwards. SACOS was marginalized and forgotten as if it did not exist in the first place. Hence, the need for sports archives to tell its history and takes its rightful place among other political, cultural archives. The second reason, the archive provides a critical analysis how the struggle was conducted, and to ensure that the mistakes are not repeated, and we measure what success had been achieved currently. Small example, the non-racial Transvaal Tennis Board had 8 affiliates during SACOS's reign. After unity, most of them have disappeared. So we've recorded them. Also, archives provide an insight why the campaign against racist sport was to a large extent responsible for the greater campaign of getting rid of apartheid in South Africa. It also lays bare the success of volunteerism, as SACOS and its 22 affiliates had no full-time staff, whereas racist sport had full-time staff. It also provided closure to persons who had worked tirelessly for SACOS as events overtook them, and hence there was no opportunity for them to find closure. When interviewing such persons, it became emotional and tears were shed. Hence, the archives provided comfort and closure. Last, the non-racial sport history sports archives provide a wealth of information to academics and students who are interested in doing research into the struggle for non-racial sport. And to that extent, in 2004, MACCs was done on the rail of Sekwas, Saifkan Sport from 1982, 1992. So that's one example. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ajit. We have a second question. Do you have any examples of how sport contributes to improving the well-being of students in universities? Karl?
Okay. Yeah, I suppose to begin with more kind of broadly, just sport is something that allows friendships to be formed for students when they arrive at university. The way a lot of students meet friends is by joining sporting teams, and that those friendships kind of continue and grow after they leave. And certainly we work with our alumni office. Former students keep the link with the university, and that's why it's important within the university's own archive to collect and keep, you know, photographs of sporting teams down through the years, because that's the kind of friendship groups that people have. Stirling's also has quite a few students who compete at a very high level in terms of sport. We have currently students who compete at the Commonwealth Games, will be competing in the Olympic Games and in the international championships. Particularly swimming, we're very strong with swimming. And that's part of the university story that we're keen to also collect as part of the university archives. More broadly, in terms of our experience with sporting heritage and well-being, I think the focus quite often is about the value of sporting heritage and well-being for older people. Sporting archives are quite often used for reminiscence in terms of care, sparking memories for people. Also, there's quite a few sporting memories groups which kind of tackle loneliness, bring people together, spark memories, talk about sport. And certainly we've been involved in a number of projects around Scotland where the sporting archives are used with older people to spark memory and to spark conversation. So for us, I think it's a kind of challenge getting students engaged with sport and heritage, but the potential is certainly there. And one area where there is opportunity is in developing intergenerational work to get current students involved in sport to speak to older people who competed 20, 30, 40 years ago and see how their sporting competitions have changed over the years.
Thank you for this ideas of sporting memories, intergenerational memories to spark. Nutfield, would you like to answer this second question?
Yes, I'm going to answer this question in two parts. The first part is we, of course, have ongoing sports associations. Students organize different sort of sports events amongst themselves according to their associations or their clubs. And at the university level, we actually provide free gym access for all staff members and students almost daily at the moment. So which is one of the promoting well-being activities and promotions at university. So basically, this is quite a good thing. If we also start, I think a couple of years ago, having like lunch yoga sessions in the libraries, which is actually quite a popular thing it's quite weird as well sometimes to see people in yoga pants and in a room in the library. But this is one of the things that our university is promoting at the moment about mental health as well. The second part will be talking about how we support the well-being using sports archives as well. I remember a couple of years ago, because we have a new development on campus, and we demolished one of the oldest actually sports hall around the area, and it actually sparked quite a few complaints and discussions about the development of the university campus, and people, especially the alumni, they complain about the university is not focusing on physical and mental health of students anymore, because the university sort of took away the chance of doing exercise on campus. And it actually helped the university to rethink the development of campus of our university. I think it was quite a big challenge for the universities as well, because they have changed some of the plans and also put back the original plan of without having a sports center on campus. So I think it was actually a good success about creating conversation with sports and well-being on campus. And the next thing is about before demolishing the sports center, the archives, I mean, including myself, our staff members, we actually took a lot of photographs and took a lot of artifacts back from that sports hall to the university archives as safekeeping. And now students and also alumni and also administrative staff members, they're all coming in and looking into the old sports hall, and they try to replicate the same thing in the upcoming new campus as well. So which is quite a good thing, I think, to create a dialogue and also create awareness within our community. Yep, so that's my question. That's my answer, sorry. Yeah.
Thank you, Garfield, for this theme about well-being in your university, in your work. And Ajit, would you like to answer this second question, please?
Thank you. I'm going to start at a different angle. The apartheid state created separate universities for Indians, coloreds, white, and also along tribal lines. So during the 70s, a decision was taken by all student organizations together with community-based organizations to boycott all sporting activities at these bush colleges, because the apartheid regime built beautiful sporting facilities so that it could get respectability. And we decided that as a non-violent protest, we will boycott all these universities. So right up to 1980, 1990, most of these bush colleges, sports was not encouraged from a political and social boycott view. But nevertheless, I've written a few notes on how to address this question. Students who excel at sports at high school level are given bursaries to not only further their sporting skills, but also do academic studies, which will prepare them for life after they retire from the playing field. Many students at university participate in inter-university sports tournaments, and scouts from professional sporting coach, sport talent, and on many occasions sign them up for their professional clubs. In the case of women's football, many university students are selected for the various South African national teams. If you take our national team, Banyana, a great amount of players are from the universities. Students at university studying to become teachers have an excellent opportunity to delve into various forms of coaching techniques offered at university sporting clubs, to pass that on to schools where they land up teaching. Unfortunately, the sporting facilities at majority of our schools in South Africa lack basic sporting facilities. Students who excel at sport at university are also offered places at high-performance sports centers based at certain universities to enhance their skills to enable them to get selected for the South African teams. And of course, once they retire, they are well placed to qualify as coaches. My last point. What better way to promote healthy and meaningful relationships between students from different areas, countries, backgrounds to promote social cohesion other than sports? A healthy body is a healthy mind. Thank you.
Thank you for this take of the transmission too. And I'm going to finish with the third question. What is your favorite sport item in your collection, Karl? Yes.
Okay, so I get to have first pick from the many items that we have across our sporting collections. Not an easy choice, but there's one item that kind of stands out for us. It ties in with a lot of the work we've done in recent years in terms of sporting heritage and sporting archives. So my favorite document is from our Commonwealth Games Scotland archive, and it's a promotional booklet for the 1970 Edinburgh Commonwealth Games. So it's quite important historically because 1970 was the first time that the Commonwealth Games was held in Scotland. There had been a long campaign to bring the games to Scotland because basically every 4 years it went to a different country in the Commonwealth, and Scotland had been very keen from the very beginning to get the games to Scotland. So they finally succeeded in 1970 when the games came to Edinburgh. The document itself is, as I say, it's a colour promotional brochure. It provides a lot of historical information on how the city of Edinburgh presented itself to the tourists and the visitors who were coming for the games, and also lays out details of all the different sporting facilities which were built specifically for the games in 1970. But the most important element of this document is its cover. So when we were originally cataloguing the collection, this particular document just jumped out at us with its vibrant colors and timeless design. And we've included an image of it in the slideshow at the end, so you'll get a chance to see what I'm talking about. But the cover, it's full of color. It's got a line of athletes walking along in front of a kind of backdrop of familiar Edinburgh landmarks with the flags of the Commonwealth fluttering in the breeze. So it's a beautiful image, and the image has taken on an additional value and importance to us in terms of how we've used it in recent years, and we've kind of given the document a kind of second life. We're continuing to use it to promote sport, and now we're using it to promote sporting heritage rather than sporting competition. And the image itself has become the main promotional image for our hosts and champions exhibition. And our hosts and champions exhibition is a touring exhibition, tells the story of Scotland's participation in the Commonwealth Games, which was originally created in 2014 for the Glasgow Commonwealth Games. We then expanded it into a touring exhibition, and it's visited 20 different venues around Scotland. And this image features in all of the promotional material that we have for the exhibition, and features heavily in the exhibition too. So and it gave it a kind of recognizable identity wherever the exhibition traveled to. So that's my pick.
Thank you for your personal look about your archives. Garfield, would you like to answer this first question?
Yeah, and well, I've got loads of favorite stuff, and I'm sure you'll see some of them later from some of the slides later. But my one are quite recent actually. We're still keeping different flags of different sports association or sports clubs in our archives, and this is interesting that sometimes every new semester, some of the students from those sports clubs, they're always coming into the archives and ask for our help with for the loan, basically, see if they could use the flags for the opening ceremonies. I like the item because they're not particularly like very nice looking. Sometimes they're quite old and tatty, but the way I like them, because I always see some students, new students coming in, they're the presidents of the sports clubs, and then I get a chance to know them and chat to them, and then they're always asking me the same question, why they're here in the archives, why they can't just keep them, and then I always try to explain to them they are actually active records, regardless of format, because they're part of university history, they're part of the history of their clubs. That's why I rather keep them in the archives for the rest of the year. So you're welcome to come in and just borrow them. So it's basically showing people archives are actually not always old, not being used, but also they're actually quite still active records every year when they're coming in with some new students' faces. So this is the great part about those items that I like. And the second part is, I mean, everybody loves merch, basically. I mean, they design their own merch, tote bags and T-shirts. And this is quite funny to look at sometimes some students design to see what they were actually thinking about promoting their own clubs and with their artwork and everything. I think this is quite hilarious sometimes. And I get free merch as well, and they give me some freebies, so I use them. So that's why I love them. Yeah, that's my answer.
Thank you. The promotion is very important too. And Ajit.
Okay.
Yes.
We've got about 1,000 items. So I managed to, within 3 minutes, pick my favorite 6. The first one is a Hasanawa trophy. He was the president of the Non-Racial Cycling Cricket Board, and this was the trophy that was played amongst the provinces. I worked with the late Mr. Hawa, and I often wondered where the trophy was. And in March 2023, it found its way to me, but the person who handed it over to me could not recall how it came into her possession. The second item, Women in Non-Racial Sport. This publication provides insight into 100 women who volunteered their time to not only advance the cause of non-racial sport, but actively organize various sporting codes and assisted off the field tirelessly. Then there were 2 brochures, SECO Sports Festivals held in 1982 and 1988. This depicts the spirit of volunteerism in organizing these 2 national sports festivals without any sponsorship. Participants and administrators were housed in private homes, which showed commitment, that showed that where there is a will, there is a way. And hundreds of soccer match programs. These were produced by individuals affiliated to clubs in their own time and gave details of various club matters, including teams for the fixture, current league log positions. Such programs have currently become a no-show. so spectators have no souvenir to take back home. Then there's a book. I'll show it to you quickly. You can see it. Published by Salim Badat, Tennis, Apartheid and Social Justice, the first non-racial international tennis tour in 1971. The book traces organizing of the tour and how white South Africa tennis bodies colluded with the international tennis body to prevent the opportunity for players to play at the Junior Wimbledon Championship of 1971. The author has taken this injustice with the current South African Tennis Authority and with the International Tennis Federation, but sadly has had no response thus far. My last item is the South African Cricket Board's memo to the International Cricket Conference of 1979. The memo pointed out under what circumstances must South Africa be readmitted to international cricket. To this day, most of these conditions have still not been met, especially sporting facilities at the majority of schools in South Africa. And this applies not only to cricket, but also to tennis, rugby, squash, swimming, etc. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So, Caroline.
Thank you. So thank you, everyone. That was really, really interesting, and I think it demonstrates the rich nature of the collections that we hold in university archives. I see that there are a lot of questions from the audience. So maybe I can just ask one thing of you, and then we can go on to the questions from the audience. Karl, you talked about having students talk to people who used to play sport, older people. And I was wondering then, do you use that? Do you add those conversations to your collection? Because I wanted to ask you all how you add things to the archives, how you get new things into your collections.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean that particular example would be in the basis of kind of creating an oral history project. And we created a project like that where we worked with the Scottish Ex-Boxers Association to try and get a kind of archive of Scottish boxing off the ground, because quite often for many sports as well, we've found there is no central place for the archives of that sport to go. So that was an example where the interviews with the former boxers formed part of the new archive. So that's one way of doing it. And in terms of building collections, I think with sport, in terms of student sport and indeed sport at kind of higher levels, I think the fact that the turnover of staff and students is quite high, so there's always gaps in the collection. There's very seldom a kind of planned and organized collecting policy. So basically, the better your collections are catalogued, the easier it is to fill the gaps in the collection. And we've certainly put out calls before because we're missing a kind of, one item from a series of documents, and put it out to the relevant sporting community, and people have come back and filled those gaps for us.
I don't know, Garfield or Ajit, do you still add to your collections?
Yes, currently we have orally interviewing some of the members and players who played during the non-racial era. We've recently discovered there's software where it moves from recording to Word document, and we're busy putting that together, and we want to upload all those oral history as well as a summary of the interview. So that's very much in the cards.
Excellent. That's really good. And Garfield, are you doing anything similar?
Actually, no, we do not do anything relating to sports, like in terms of oral history. But as Karl said, actually, sports is actually one of our, subjects relating to sports are actually one of our gaps in the archives nowadays, because a lot of people are coming in and looking for sports-related archival materials because they want to promote well-being. Especially, they want to study things about students' physical and mental development, actually, from the Department of Health and Medicines. So this is one of the weakest subjects that we have in the archives, and we are trying to fill the gaps now, especially with more modern records for example, from the University Health Services. And also from the counseling, the social science section, to see if sports are actually playing important roles in the universities. So most of our archive materials are actually from the very, very early days, back in the early 1900s. So, which is actually not great, to be honest. But if people want to, as I said, study about gender equalities, female sports players, which is fine, but not for now. Studying about well-being and also mental development.
Okay. Thank you. So, Veronica, do you want to look at the questions from the audience?
Yes, Caroline. Thank you. I think we could begin with the question of Camille Moret. And she said, I wanted to ask you about managing the tensions and sometimes conflicts of interest of having holdings that can be more artifactual than documentary. How, as a university archive with no museum of heritage center component, I find this struggle with this. Please, could you share ideas or strategies on how to handle that, especially with regards to, in French, respect des fonds? Should we pass on those mixed collection, artifacts and archives, objects and archives? How can we do with this work? I don't know.
Okay, well, I could probably start off with that.
Yes.
Certainly in terms of kind of making my notes in preparation for the talk, two of the kind of keywords I kind of flagged up in terms of the possible questions that might arise were objects and trophies, because they are things which concern us and which aren't necessarily the normal archival material that you would expect to deal with. But I would basically argue that for sporting archives have their own particular character, and I don't think you can separate the artifactual from the documentary when it comes to sporting collections. In the same way as for any other archive collection, you would be very reluctant to break it up and put different parts of the collection in different places. I think you lose quite a lot of the value of sporting collections if, for example, you were to remove all the artifacts and put them in a museum and just separate out the documentary material. And that's what we've found with our Commonwealth Games collection. You know, it's very heavily object-based, which was a challenge for us to begin with. And certainly it kind of continues to be a kind of challenge when it comes to cataloging material, because we have uniforms, we have medals, we have trophies. But again, in terms of promoting the archive and promoting sport and heritage, we wouldn't have been able to create our touring exhibition without the objects. And the benefit of promoting the collection is that the collection has grown because people who've become aware of the exhibition and the archive by coming to the exhibition have donated additional material to the archive. So the archive has grown because we were able to kind of showcase the bigger story by using quite a few of the objects in the collection.
Thank you, Karl. Perhaps another. I'm going to. Sorry, I'm going. Yes. Do the university have programs intended to engage the public or share this invaluable information with them through exhibition or dialogues? It's a question from Sizwe Nibioza in South Africa. Perhaps Garfield or Ajit, if you want to answer. Yes.
Sorry, is this from Joseph? Is this a question about archival records in the university? Is this the last question? Okay. Yeah, Joseph, we've got records of sporting codes that started back in the 1800s, 1900s. We are led to believe that sport only started when game of cricket, soccer, and rugby was introduced. And we've got a number of books that traces rugby and cricket that started in the late 1800s and early 1900s. And we've also got publications that have come out currently, which are put out by the current sporting code, so that our collection will be broad-based. And in fact, just about 2-3 days ago, we got a lot of collection of theses that university academics have done, and that will also be included in the archives. I will then invite Joseph to do a tour of the archives, because that's what we've been doing. We get clubs, we spend about 2 hours with them, taking them through the archives. But the problem of taking them from place A to place B is logistically very challenging.
Thank you, Ajit. Another question. Does your university work with the government and or private sports organization to archive their sport archives? Perhaps Garfield, or I don't know, Karl or Ajit. Thank you.
Yeah, we've had discussion with the Director General of the Minister of Sport. Unfortunately, political changes happen. They say politics, 1 hour is too long. And unfortunately, the gentleman that we had contact with was moved to another portfolio. So we want to start again to engage with the Department of Sport and Culture so that we can get funding for our archives.
Thank you, Ajit. Garfield, would you like to answer this question too?
Actually, no, we don't have a lot of collaboration with the government relating to sports promotion. But we do engage a lot of, well, actually our alumni actually is community-based, basically. We have a lot of alumni from our university, so they're sort of like the public. So every time when we actually do open house at the university, like information day and also fundraising, we do use a lot of archive materials relating to their alumni, their own students' lives back then. And actually, mostly photographs and also documentary letters and everything that the former students wrote, and they were all kept in the archive. So I think this is kind of the proper engagement we use, how we use the archive materials relating to sports to sort of stir their own memories. Yeah.
And I would just briefly say that we're actually very fortunate in the sense that Commonwealth Games Scotland understand the value of their sporting archives, and we work quite closely with Commonwealth Games Scotland. So when they're planning events and activities, quite often they're keen to include some element of their own sporting archives in the event. Every Commonwealth Games Scotland set up what's called Scotland House, and it's basically the headquarters for the Scottish team in whatever host city is the Commonwealth Games is in. And for the last 3 Commonwealth Games, Scotland House has included an exhibition of sporting archives from their collections. So as I say, we're not every organization is as keen to promote its own heritage, but we are very lucky in our relationship with Commonwealth Games Scotland.
Thank you very much. I have another question. What do you think are the issues or challenges in managing on archiving sports records? I don't know. Do you want
Sorry,
to?
can you just repeat the question?
It's what do you think are the issues or challenges in managing and archiving sports records?
Well, like Karl said, well, I don't like to separate documentary archive materials and objects because I'm a very snobby traditional archivist. I like to keep things in their context, so I don't like to separate things. So space is a very big problem for me because I've got loads of trophies in the archive, and also that's why preservation and space they are the 2 big challenges for my university archive relating to sports materials. And as I said, like the flags that I loan them to students, I mean, they get very sort of tatty sometimes as well. So yeah, this is the big problem. And Hong Kong is a very humid place, so we have to run, you know, environmental control, air conditioning 24/7, which is expensive. And yeah, so this is the big challenge for us, basically. Yeah.
The importance of the context.
Yeah,
yes.
exactly.
I don't know if Karl or Ajit really want to answer
Again,
this
yeah,
question. Karl? Yes, thank you.
Just very briefly again, I think, and just to reiterate the point about continuity and gaps in collections, I think that's a difficulty for sporting archives. It's filling in the gaps to be able to tell the whole story.
I can just say there was a comment from Becky in the chat about data protection and privacy as well, and that can often be a problem with sports archives. I don't know if you agree.
Yeah.
Actually, I have a question for Karl, though. Do you have any records about like disabled athletes from the university?
Not specifically, no. In terms of the university records, we don't. And in terms of the Commonwealth Games, to now the Commonwealth Games is very good in terms of Paralympic sport. But previously it was a separate competition, and those records don't form part of the archive. So again, talking about gaps, that is another clear gap in our holdings. Yeah.
Okay.
There is, yes, thank you. And there is this question about data protection. Yes, as Caroline said, how do you balance providing access to modern sports archives with data protection? Because they contain a lot of extremely sensitive personal data. I don't know.
If I can come in on that, I think most of the material we've got, a collection of brochures, photographs and that, which was public knowledge at the time. So we don't have that problem. The problem will come in when you interview somebody. And we've got a contract and said, whatever you feel, you don't want it to be publicized, when you sign off the transcription, please delete it. And only then will that transcription of the interview be loaded onto the website. So that we have guarded ourselves and the person we're going to interview by saying that whatever you don't want to be published, you're at liberty, or you can say it must be published when I'm in the graveyard. Thank you.
Thank you. We are finishing this question. There's time for questions. Thank you, Karl, Caroline, Garfield, and all the attendees too. Fina, yes, it's the time to finish with you. Thank you.
Thank you, Veronique. Very interesting roundtable. Fantastic roundtable. Thank you very much for your attention. Thank you very much for sharing with us the information on the sport archives in the university archives. It has been a pleasure to listen to all of you. Thank you. Thank you, the ICA Secretariat, Maria Paula and Clemens, for your support. And thank you to all attendees. The next roundtable will be on 24 April 24, debates on sport archives with photographic and audio-visual archives with an expert group of ICA, PAAG. See you in April.